Hey guys, so this is a tough thing for me to talk about. I have to tell you about what's been going on. It's a critical time for me, and it has been for a long time now. Even if I go back, like, say 4 years ago, when I thought it was like getting tough, when our sales had been starting to decrease. I had just come back from a trip from France with my family, my wife and 2 girls, and my wife said she wanted to move out. And that was just sort of the beginning of being a single dad and taking care of 2 girls most of the time. For a long period of time, the girls were with me except for a few hours, or 6 or 9 hours a week. Right after that, I found out that the factory I had been working with disappeared overnight. So the factory that I started the Mighty Wallet with just overnight just took all the money and just disappeared. It was just like, the message I got on my phone was, "Something's wrong with the factory, subject line, sent from my iPhone." And I was like, oh no. This was like after a night of having been up with the girls all night because they couldn't sleep. They were very anxious from the separation, and I was trying to manage that, get this message, and I was like, the next message that came was this long explanation that the owner had just disappeared and taken all the money, and then the factory was gone. A month's time, we were going into the holidays. At that same point, my mom had a hip replacement and developed a staph infection. My dad had throat cancer. My grandmother who raised me passed away. These were all like events that happened within like a month of each other. I remember the building we live in, this building had a gas leak. We had to evacuate the building. I mean, it was just a series of things like that from 4 years ago that were like, what's happening? In some ways, those things sort of were the birth of my Be Mighty project, which kept me kind of daily focused on something optimistic, positive. You know, I would just find anything that I could look at and be happy about, like whether it was a leaf in a puddle that looked beautiful. I was like, that's amazing, and I'm gonna hold that in my mind today. Or a quote. And so I had all these quotes that I had written out and saved. And I'd already used quotes in the history of the business and just sort of motivating myself, taping them on my computer, putting fortune cookies on my computer to sort of motivate myself. That eventually became the Be Mighty project. So I'm just saying there were some good things that came of that. But then even in this sort of downward cycle, as I've been trying to save the business over the last few years, about 1.5 years ago, my eldest daughter was left alone in my ex-wife's care, and unfortunately she had a very bad panic attack, was anxious trying to get to her. Her mom couldn't reach her, and then eventually it just led to this, she had this anxiety that was separation anxiety, that she became kind of fusional with me. It was so intense that for a long period of time I worked, or tried to work, from the hallway of the school because she couldn't physically stay in the school if I wasn't there. The principal was very understanding and let me work from a laptop on an AV cart in the hallway as I was trying to give her the confidence to know that it was going to be okay, that Daddy was okay, that I wasn't far away. I mean, this was months and months, suddenly like a rupture in your life, and it was just like, what do you do? And I had to do everything I could to keep my daughter from having kind of a long-term issue with this. You know, thankfully after many, many months, maybe I was out of the office, I think like 6 months. But the timing was incredibly bad. Not that there's ever a good time for something like that, but particularly in the business where I was managing a few significant accounts, huge accounts. I had just hired a new salesperson who wasn't really trained, didn't know the accounts, wasn't getting access to the information while I was away. We had problems with our ordering system, yada, yada, yada. The whole thing, like just endless number of tiny catastrophes that were just offsetting, spending my time all the time just trying to fix things instead of move the business forward. And in that period, the business just seriously slipped behind, missed payments in my loan to my bank. We got into some serious trouble and were unable to sort of, gain their confidence again. Over that 1.5 years, I've been cutting from what we were 8 employees down to 6, down to 4. and then a few, and now it's just myself and a few people that work remotely, like overseas. I cut my own salary, like more than half. I've been renting out parts of my apartment, my own bedroom, to try to make up for the difference in my pay. And so I'm saying this because as challenging and as difficult and as it sounds, and there have been many nights where this has been like kind of like the most anguish-ridden, tormented sort of feelings almost on a nightly basis for me. Definitely the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life, and I've been through some tough things. I mean, I grew up raised by my grandparents because my father and mother were both alcoholics and using drugs at the time, and I had actually one day walked away from the house without anybody noticing, and walked 30 minutes away to my grandmother's house at the age of 3. And that's when they decided, my grandparents decided, that I was going to be taken care of by them. Just saying that in my life I've been through some challenges. Later in my life, my father ended up robbing banks to pay off his drug addiction, and that ended up with him in prison. Painting basically a picture that I've been through a lot of hard things, and it's not unfamiliar for me to be in this territory, but this is definitely like the hardest thing I've ever been through. And I just wanted to say that, you know, I wanted to tell you, to be forthright, and but yet also to be real, to say that I'm not giving up. I am like in this more than I've ever been. There's a part of me that, as this thing has been scaled down to be more and more like refined, and it reminds me of the beginning of Dynamiting, when I was just myself in my living room, hustling, doing everything, inventory, sales, planning, like everything, doing the HTML code. Like, it's kind of like those days all over again, but in reverse. But I'm sharing this with you because I wanted to tell you guys, because I know a lot of you love Dynamiting, love the company, love the culture, love this thing that I've built. A lot of times I've been at a crossroads in this last few months, and I would get random emails from people reaching out saying how much they love the company, and it really motivates me to keep pushing forward right at those times where I think like, oh man, those messages, the long-term support you guys have given to Dynamite is keeps me pushing. And I've always been a fighter. You always fight for whatever it is that you believe is most important in your life. That's it. That's what's been going on. And thanks for all the love and support you guys have given me over the years. It's been an amazing journey, no matter what. All the things I've learned will never be taken away from me. And I hope that in some ways the things that I've imparted are also just as valuable to you. As I always say, be mighty. Be mighty, guys.